is my best friend, my bandmate, and probably more metal than most people out there, Will Carroll.
What's up,
And
everybody? Hello.
special guests, Riki motherfucking Rachtman. How are you, bro?
How funny is it that you have been telling me, Ted, for like 2 weeks that it's live on Saturday, and then I wrote you yesterday and said, are we filming this today? Even though I knew it's live on Saturday, but I still ask you in different days of the week, like, dude, when are we doing this thing? And you're like, no, it's live, and Saturday, it's really live. So
It's
finally
live. Thank you for jumping on, Riki. Really appreciate it. I really wanted you on here. I mean, we had Brian Slagle last week, me and Will, and Slagle was a big part of our childhood, and you're a big part of our musical childhood into the teens. We stayed up late night waiting for our famous videos and favorite videos to come on the ball. So we got to see you like every Saturday. That was awesome.
I've said it before. I think you've heard this, but I said, one of the things that really makes me feel old is when I Death Angel, who, when I remember, you guys were like, Death Angel's so cool. They're these like little kids. And now you guys are like, if you guys are older, I'm a freaking relic. So it's really weird when people say like they grew up watching the ball, because I never really I'm obviously a hell of a lot older, but I never did the things because I never had kids where I really got older. So like I'll be at concerts and I'll see people that look like they're freaking 70 telling me they used to watch me as a kid. And I'm like, wow, this is bizarre. It's really weird because I never really realized I don't have kids that I'm old, and it's just weird.
You're not old, dude. You're just older.
Not wiser either, just older.
No, you're wiser. You're wiser. Now, was Headbangers Ball your big breakthrough gig?
I would I would think that my breakthrough, of my entire career, proud of, was the Cat House, which was the club that I opened. And because of the Cat House, that's what kind of got me known to do Headbangers Ball. And to this day, I'm still doing, whether it's a Cat House podcast, I have an apparel company that sells Cat House stuff. But, when MTV heard about me, it was, from the Cat House. But yeah, Headbangers Ball was the thing that, to this day, if I go somewhere or go to a show, I'm still Riki Rachtman from Headbangers Ball, which is not bad. I had a hard time with it for a long time. I'm like, no, that's what I used to do. I'm doing something different now. And, remember me for this. And then I'm like, wait a minute. There were people that watched this as a kid. This is the way they found out about the music. And it was very important. So for me to say, I don't want to talk about Headbangers Ball is kind of discounting all the nice things that they're saying. And that's something that I had to learn through time.
Dude, how did you get the gig at Headbangers Ball?
It's been said in my podcast, it's been said in books, and people don't believe it, but the truth is Axl Rose was the one that kind of hooked it up for me, that I said like, hey, I'll do that. And he's like, I can make some calls. So Axl Rose and his manager at the time, Doug Goldstein, made some calls, and then Axl's like, hey, you want to go to New York and audition for MTV? I'm like, hell yeah. So so he went down to business class. I went up because I'd never flown business class, and we stayed at the Mayflower Hotel in New York, and I went to my audition, and, I was horrible because I didn't come from a journalist background. I didn't come from a radio background. I was just like, okay, you're the dude that runs that club. Now you're on TV. And I was terrible, but they still hired me. And I'm sure Axl helped a real lot, and I have no problem with that. And, but he was the one that helped me get the job. And people say that part's not true, is it? And I'm like, yeah, blame him. It's true.
Wow.
Do you remember what you had to say for the audition? What that consisted of?
Yeah. Put me like on some couch, and I was like going through videos, and it was just so terrible. And then they had me host MTV from I think 3 a.m. till 4 a.m, doing regular stuff, which was the 1 hour, I think, that nobody ever watches MTV. Like nobody ever said, dude, I saw you on MTV. And then they had me be like a guest correspondent from Hollywood with my friends. The thing is, people used to get irritated when I say, oh, my friends, but these guys, they were my friends that just happened to start bands that got big. I mean, you guys know how it was in the Bay Area back then. You guys were all friends before everybody became rock stars. You know, we didn't think Guns N' Roses or, you know, Faster Pussycat or Jane's Addiction or any of these bands would ever get record deals and be big, you know? So all of our, like, I saw all my friends get record deals and I was just like, well, what about me? And then I got the job with MTV. So
that's awesome, dude. The perks that must have came with being the host of Headbangers Ball must have been pretty nice.
Yes, I mean, obviously, I had the Cat House, which was helped a lot as far as the women department, and you know, the way it was is like if there was a beautiful woman and they couldn't get Axel and they couldn't get Nikki and they couldn't get Tammy, and they'd run down the list. It's like, well, there's Riki, so I'll take the one. And it was nice because, you know, not only did a lot of the bands I already knew because everybody used to go to my club, but it was also cool. Like, okay, Riki, you've been here for a month. You're going to go to, you know, England and interview Aerosmith. And I mean, people always talk about Dave Mustaine giving me such a hard time and Dave hated you. And they couldn't be further from the truth. I knew Dave way before I was on MTV, and he always gave me a hard time. And last time I saw Dave, he's like we were the Abbott and Costello of MTV. I'm like, yeah, that's good, because he gave me shit and people always talk about it. Nobody talks about the interview I did with Lars. They talk about Dave Mustaine because that was so notorious for giving me a hard time. And that was my job, to take it and have fun with it. So, but it got me famous. I mean, look, how many Riki from Headbangers Ball. So, and it was something that was real weird at first. I wasn't comfortable with it for a long time, and it screwed with me. And I was not grateful. I'll tell you that. I was definitely not grateful.
Wow.
Did you have any control over the videos that were shown on Headbangers Ball? Were you able to influence that at all?
In the 5 years that I was on MTV, there was only one video ever that was a suggestion. And what happened is I said, hey, it's my birthday. I've been on the channel for like 4 years. I'm like, it's my birthday. Can I like give you guys a list of videos to play for my birthday? And the only one they played was one by Motorhead. So they never, because I'm like, Motorhead's my band. So they never, ever, I mean, there were videos that I hated. There were videos that I did not believe belonged on the ball. But, you know, everybody seemed to think that I sit there on Friday picking what videos they're going to play, that I'm going to say, okay, great, let's play this one from the Krog Mags, and then let's follow it up with Vixen. And then it's like, dude, I had no say. Here's the videos. So if there was a video that I liked, everybody was like, oh, I'm excited. And sometimes I did say, a lot of times I would say like, oh, and here's Suicidal Tendencies, my favorite band. Oh, here's, you know, something else, my favorite band. And it's because when there was a video that I really liked, I truly was excited about it, because I wasn't playing a video that I hated, you know, because I can't play a video and say, oh my God, why are we playing this? We play it during the daytime all the time. Why are we playing this video? I couldn't say that. And for people to say, oh, you should have just told them. It's like, I live in a house and a car because I'm playing these metal videos. This isn't a bad job, you know? So that was what my job was.
Sure.
Insane. I mean, Headbangers Ball is known to play like hair, you know, lack of a better term, hair metal, thrash metal. Did you equally like both all genres? Because you hosted the ball, but a lot of us knew you were on the LA side.
I mean, I'm from Los Angeles. I'm proud to be from Hollywood. Yes, my club had a lot of those bands play. Now, my background is punk rock. That's where I came from. From the late 70s to early 80s, Los Angeles and Orange County punk rock is where I'm from. And I think my gateway was Motorhead, because that was both of them. But the truth is, I liked a lot of different genres of music. People seem to criticize, myself included, Headbangers Ball, like, all you played was Warrant, Poison, and that. And then I watched an old show. I'm like, actually, no, that's not really true. We played everything. And what do? You know, either way, you're screwed. If I play something from Cannibal Corpse, then the kids are going to say, why aren't you playing Skid Row? And then if I play something from Skid Row, they're saying, why aren't you playing something from Exodus? Why aren't you? And it's like, look, it's a lot of things that, and we have to play a lot of different types of metal. I think these days, what's kind of nice is I'm in a unique position that if I tell somebody, hey, you know, even though they're not a new band, I use this band as an example, the people that are my demographics, they're so set in their ways that they won't listen to new music. And I'm like, hey, you like that thrash? Listen to Municipal Waste. They're great, you know? And I tell a lot of people, like, I'm a big fan of Code Orange. And I tell people, look, they've got a little Nine Inch Nails in them. They got a little bit of this. And I think personally, if there's a type of music that I would listen to the most at home, it would probably tend to be more on the thrash side. That's the stuff that I really, really like. But do I like, do I like Faster Pussycat? Yeah, I do. I like everything. I also like Waylon Jennings. I mean, I love music, but there were videos that I think shouldn't be played, and there are videos that I didn't like, but I understand why they were there, because we wanted a lot of people watching it so we could stay. If we just played nothing but hardcore, heavy, the show probably wouldn't have lasted as long as it did, which is a bummer, but it's the truth. We got so much crap for playing Nirvana. I think we kind of helped break Nirvana. I have no problem with that.
Speaking of Faster Pussycat, the first album is one of my favorite albums of all time. I fucking love it. And I just want to ask about your record scratching on what song was that on? Babylon. Like, was that something you knew how to do prior, or you just winged it in the studio, or what?
I got my start as a club DJ, and if you listen to the Cat House Hollywood podcast, I tell all these stories to the point of nauseum, but I was a DJ. I was a rock and roll guy in clubs, mixing and scratching and doing all that before it was cool for white boys to do that. And my first gig was I got to DJ Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear's wedding. And that kind of led me into doing the rock and roll stuff. So I had always done that. I'd always been able to go from song to song and scratch and stuff like that. So when it came to scratching and they were like, dude, do you want to do scratching? I'm like, hell yeah. So I did it. I was good at it, and it was a lot of fun. So that was something that I've actually been thinking. I've got a little mixing thing right there that I'm thinking of setting up just to do it again for fun, because it was a lot of fun. But that's how I really got my start, by being a club DJ.
Yeah, it sounds great on the song. It totally sounds legit. Like you know what you're doing. How did you meet Tammy Down? You guys live together, right?
Yeah, it's so great, because the last time that I spoke to Tammy was probably about 40 minutes ago. It's like we're better friends now than we ever are. We've ridden motorcycles coast to coast together many times. It's just such a typical LA story. I was dating a mud wrestler. We went to some party. There were a couple people there, and he was there, and we just hit it off and started talking, and that's how we became friends. It was just, and I think you guys can relate, because I know that, it's funny. I wish I was part of the Bay Area scene at one point, and I also wish I was part of the New York City hardcore scene at one point, because they had these cliques and these families that there might be people that weren't in the bands, but everybody knew them. We had this in Hollywood, and everybody kind of knew each other, and it just everybody kind of came up at the same time. That sort of, I would imagine, happen in the Bay Area,
Yeah, sure.
So it was like that in Hollywood. It was a little cliquey. The Cat House scene wasn't what you would think as far as being the Sunset Strip scene. We were a little darker, a little, I don't want to use the word gothier, but a little like we call it gypsy junkie. It wasn't, I have nothing wrong with Poison. Poison never played the Cat House. Everybody's like, oh yeah, and Poison used to play the Cat House. I'm like, look, Poison never played the Cat House, but Exodus and Body Count, and I can name a bunch of heavy bands that did. So, but we were kind of like a gypsy junkie scene, but I still love a lot of those bands, like that LA Gun Faster Pussycat thing. I think that it was a lot of fun, and I still like those bands.
Of all the bands that played the Cat House, was there ever a band that played that never really made it to the next level, or got signed, that you thought were really good and should have made it?
I think the band, the London Choir Boys, should have been bigger. they had a real Rod Stewart Faces sound to them. I really thought that was a really, really good band. It's funny. There's bands like, when we had Allison Chains play, Mookie Blaylock opened up for him, which ended up changing their name to Pearl Jam. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of bands that played the Cat House before they made it big. But I think that the Choir Boys, I always pictured them to be much bigger. And the other bands, like the bands that I thought would be big ended up being like ridiculously huge. So, no.
But and then there's Alley Cat Scratch. No, I'm just
kidding. Alley Cat Scratch. There's another band. I know Will mentioned Faster Pussycat. I love Faster Pussycat too. But there's one band that I think from the LA scene that played the Cat House that I don't think got enough credit would be Bang Tango.
That's funny. Bang Tango was like, you had Guns N' Roses and Jane's Addiction here, okay? Then underneath you had LA Guns, Faster Pussycat, Get Boy, I'll throw in there. And then just a little bit under, you had Bang Tango. Bang Tango was good. When I did a Cat House tour, I brought Bang Tango with us. I thought they were fun. They did a documentary, and they interviewed me in the documentary, and they said, there's reasons they didn't make it big. Why do you think Bang Tango wasn't as big as Guns N' Roses? And I just said, because they weren't as good as Guns N' Roses. I mean, the problem is in our area, you had to be compared to the biggest rock and roll band in the world. I think Bang Tango is another band I would put in the genre of Cat House bands, and they were also a lot of fun. I mean, now it's funny because we have bands, some of the heavier bands now are acknowledging some of the bands back then that I could be talking to Mark Morton from Lamb of God, and he'll say something great about Faster Pussycat, that there's a lot of the heavier bands like yourselves that are now acknowledging some of those bands. I mean, there is a difference between Faster Pussycat and LA Guns and like Warrant and Dokken, same bands. And
oh yeah,
and I think that they are. They're not. They're really not.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this weird stigma between the Bay Area and the Hollywood scene. Like, all the thrashers just didn't acknowledge the Hollywood scene at all. I never bought into that. I loved LA Guns and Faster Pussycat even back then. Was there ever that kind of vibe down in LA as well? Like, fuck the Bay Area thrash scene or anything like that?
I remember, and this was 80. It was a long time ago, in the early, way before I was on MTV. And I remember Slash and Del James going to see Slayer. And then I became very good friends with Zetro. And so he's even said a million times over, that, dude, we used to spit on those people. And then one day I said, dude, I want Exodus to play the Cat House, which a lot of people thought was like, this is Bay Area thrash playing the Hollywood Cat House. And it wasn't totally packed, but I thought it was great. And I decided I wanted to bring in heavier bands once in a while, call it No Wimp Night. And the first band on was Exodus. And I know that it existed. I can't say that we ever had rivalries with Bay Area thrash bands, probably because we would get our ass kicked. But I think that we had I hate the term hair metal. I hate that term, but I know that we did have rivalries with some of the quote hair metal clubs, because the Cat House wasn't like that. I mean, I got in fights that I ended up in jail, that I got sued for breaking somebody's nose that was of another rival club in LA. But I don't know if we really had a rivalry with the Bay Area, because it just didn't cross. I mean, they all came to the Cat House. All of them did. They all came to the Cat House. And we always appreciated it. I always loved Slayer, obviously, Megadeth and you guys and Testament and all that stuff is great. And they all came to the Cat House because they wanted to get girls, but I don't think a rivalry because our paths never crossed. If the Bay Area thrash scene would have been in like, you know, just outside of LA, it might have been that way because there were people like myself that liked all kinds of music that would go down shows, but I don't know. I don't think the paths really ever crossed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now I was listening to your podcast with Zetro. I find it funny, and tell me if this is true. It sounded true, but at first I was like, you guys played Cabo. Headbangers Ball was in Cabo. Someone died in Cabo, and you went up to the wife and says, I have bad news. Your husband died, but the good news is all your drinks are comped.
Did I say that? Did I say it to the lady? No. But what I didn't realize is that Zetro, I think, might have even helped. Zetro was there when the body died. I was on the beach, and me being stupid Riki, you know, was making jokes. And it's not funny. It's not funny at all. But I said, you know, we saw, I feel like such a dick saying this story. But what I said was that I said, oh, look, they're going up to talk to the lady. Here's what they're saying. Well, the bad news is that your husband's dead, but the good news is we're going to comp your drinks the rest of the vacation. I said it as a joke. I said,
all right. It wasn't clarified in your podcast. I had to ask you, like,
no, I didn't say it.
To get it from.
I have a heart somewhere in there and do have but I'm saying it among my friends. And I think I might even said it to Gary, and you'd think Gary would have thought it was, I'm sure Gary thought it was funny. Other people probably didn't.
Gotcha. Dude, in the whole Headbangers Ball, who was probably the nicest band you interviewed? Like, oh man, okay.
It's hard to say because
or one of.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. It's hard to say who was the nicest because the people that I liked were the people that were my friends. But the people that I was like right on that I had ever met except for the Headbangers Ball were the legendary masters, without a doubt. Ronnie James Dio. When I will never forget meeting Brian Johnson and Angus Young, and they're talking to me, and they're saying, and Brian said something like, you know, blah, blah, blah. But now if we saw you, of course, now that we're friends, it'd be like, and I was like, oh my God, Brian Johnson just said we're friends. It was meeting the Brian Johnson, the Angus Youngs, the Ronnie James Dio. Rob Halford couldn't be nicer. You know, it's the people that you kind of would anticipate being just really good people. They were good people. I mean, Rob was just so kind. Dio, I mean, Dio had a knack. Like when I'd see Dio, I'd bring my friend. I'd go, hi, Ronnie, this is my friend Troy. He's a big fan. And then after the show, Ronnie would come up and he would go like, so Troy, did you like the show? Like he'd remember the guy's name. Like he really cared. Alice Cooper I had known before Headbangers Ball. So Alice Cooper was always kind. So when I think of people that were really, really good people, they're the people that you would think about being the legendary masters, which is nice. The biggest rock stars in the world were the ones that were really good, which was the Dio, the Angus, Brian Johnson. I mean, those are the times when I look back at the days and say like, wow, like I got to meet with those guys. And without a doubt, if you talk about, there's rock stars, and then you talk about rock stars that were like level with their fans, it has to be, you know, it's Pantera, it's Daryl and Vinny and Philip, it's everybody. It's like those guys, you know, especially Vinny and Dime, like they treated their fans really, really good, and they never put off a rock star attitude. They really had a knack of being like real, you know, like good people. No rock star attitudes at all.
Cool. So a couple of years ago, you had a Cat House like reunion show, right, in Irvine Meadows, or no? It didn't go well.
No, it did, in my opinion. So it was, and when I say that, it's another case where I should kind of keep my mouth shut because so many people had so much fun. But what happened is I was approached by Live Nation. I have always wanted to do a festival. But the problem is, somewhere down the line, the bands that I wanted were pushed aside, and some of the bands that they wanted were put on. And please, when I say this, I am not saying anything bad about Extreme at all. I'm not saying anything bad about them. However, I didn't should have been on the Cat House Festival. Not only were they on the festival, they were the headliner, and they were so long to the point that they went late. And I have an all-star jam that I've booked that has Evan from Biohazard, Sebastian Bach, Ace Frehley, Gilby Clarke. They're all playing. And because Extreme was so long, the stage started rotating while Ace and Sebastian and Evan and everybody's up there. And I'm like, so that, I mean, put it this way. When I went to the front gate, they didn't even give me all access passes. I never saw one of the t-shirts. So basically what I did after that, the very next year was the Cat House 30th anniversary. I rented out the Whiskey and Roxy. I booked everything myself. I didn't announce one single band, and both shows were the fastest sellout on the Sunset Strip. So since I sold out, I didn't have to say a word, and nobody ever knew who was going to play. And I wanted to do something that nobody expected. And even Tammy didn't know. So, you know, the curtains were closed and it was like, who the hell's going to play? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them something that nobody expected. And the curtains opened and it was Twisted Sister after they hired. And people are like, I didn't even know Riki knows D. How the hell did it? Like, I mean, you know, you hear these special guests too big to be announced. Well, we really had, I mean, we had every band you could imagine, including an all-star jam that was tribute to Lemmy, because Motorhead played the Cat House so many times. And that had like just every band playing. I actually did a duet with Shooter Jennings. I did No More, Ain't No Nice Guy After All. And at the very end of it, Todd Singerman, who was Motorhead's manager, he put his arm around me and he said, like, Lemmy would have been proud. And I fucking started to cry. Because I love Lemmy. I love Lemmy, you know. So, that was Riki Rachtman's show. Now I've realized it's the 35th anniversary. I don't know if I'm going to do something. I don't know if we can do anything, but I'd like to do something. But, I ask people, hey, if I'm going to do a show, what would you like to see? And everybody, has such an opinion on the way it should be, to the point of people saying, well, you've got to have Seether and 3 Days Grace because that's current. I'm like, okay, that has nothing to do with Cat House or Headbangers Ball. I'm not saying anything bad about bands, but it's got nothing to do with what I do. Yeah. But everybody picks their favorite band and thinks that's what the Ball or Cat House or everything else has to be. When I'd see a Sex Pistols reunion more important than Seether or 3 Days Grace,
Right.
Wow. Interesting, man. I mean,
I know who else. You know who the band is that I tried to get? I'm glad that it was Twisted. First band I hit up, that I wanted a band that nobody thought would play. And obviously everybody thought it was going to be Guns N' Roses, but it couldn't happen. But the band that I wanted to have play was like, imagine if you were at a rock show and you're watching all these bands and you're having a good time, and then the curtain opens up and then all of a sudden it was Cheap Trick. That's what I wanted. Because I love Cheap Trick and nobody would have guessed it. And it came close, but.
Have Cheap Trick played the Cat House before? Did they play it back in the day?
No. But in the last time they were touring, Robin Zander was wearing Cat House shirts on stage. Which is about like things that made me feel really good. It was like, wow, that was kind of cool. And they're nice guys, and I love them, and but I sure would have liked to have them play the Cat House.
Yeah, that would have been great.
What was the possibility if you do another Cat House, all 5 of GNR?
I don't know. I mean, obviously that's what I want. I was better friends with Axl than anybody, but in the past 20 years, I haven't talked to him at all. And, when I got sick recently, Duff checked in on me to see how I was doing. I talked to Slash occasionally. I mean, obviously, I would be completely fine not making a penny just to have Guns N' Roses do something for the final Cat House show. That's my ultimate dream, and it would be great. But who knows? You know, I don't know. I know I'd like to see them play in New Zealand in November if that actually happens, but who knows? I don't know. I had Alice Cooper play on Halloween. That was pretty cool. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Will.
Oh no, go ahead, Ted. Go ahead.
Speaking of Alice Cooper, I think the last time I saw Alice Cooper with Will was at Sweden when we played that festival. He was awesome. He was awesome.
He's great. He's great. I saw Alice Cooper play. I got my girlfriend's from France, so we went to Paris, and I got to see Alice Cooper play in Paris. And Alice Cooper's a nice guy. And you know what's crazy is, you know, if we all went to Alice Cooper, we'd be like, oh yeah, $1 Billion Babies. Oh yeah, Under My Wheels. Sick things. We go see him play like now. The biggest crowd response was for that song Poison. You know, like that. And old school. I'm like, no, you know, I want 70s Alice Cooper.
So in the early 90s, when the music landscape was changing, was there a moment like when you were on Headbangers Ball where you realized that everything was changing? Like, was there a song or a band that was on Headbangers Ball where you're like, okay, the LA scene might be coming to an end and changing of the guard type of thing?
I knew that when I closed the Cat House, I closed it because I knew the scene was dying. And
what year was that?
Sometime I guess in the mid 90s, maybe early 90s. I had another club at the time. It was called Bordello, but that was just like a kind of crazy, weird club. But, you know, everybody talks about this big turn of the tide and everything changed when Nirvana hit it. And then, you know, the thing that I hate is that like grunge killed heavy metal. Okay. A, heavy metal never died. And B, if your music scene is so weak that it gets killed by another scene, whose fault is that? When I listened to Soundgarden, I didn't hear grunge. When I listened to Soundgarden, I heard Sabbath. You know, I like Soundgarden because I didn't sound like grunge. Yes, Nirvana was something different, but with that album Bleach was freaking great. And Allison Chains, you know, they played the Cat House a couple times because they were a rock band. Things were changing in the way of everybody, I would say, was stripping down. That all of a sudden it didn't look as day glow and bright, and everybody was stripping down. You know, everybody was more into the denim and the jeans and I guess maybe apathy. Maybe everybody kind of looked like they just didn't give a shit anymore, you know? And I saw that changing, but everything changes. I mean, everything changes. Look at, you know, every band looked different, you know? And, you know, it's so funny when you talk about, you know, people that said that people are so stupid. Like people were like, dude, it all started when you cut your hair, when you sold out and cut your hair. I'm like, you do understand of me selling out and cutting my hair, that MTV did not want me to cut my hair. Everybody said, don't cut your hair. And I cut it. So A, how is that selling out, doing completely opposite from what everybody said to do? And if I destroyed the scene from cutting my hair, you do know that I walked into a barbershop and said, make my hair look like Charlie Benante. Okay. So it wasn't like I was, everybody started cutting your hair, and now those motherfuckers are all bald and I got more hair now. So I don't care.
Man, I've never been to the Cat House, but I heard a lot of wild stories about it, man. I wish I would have went.
It was, I mean, everything that you've heard is
true.
Better. There was, you know, and when you say about like sex, drugs, it sounds like such a cliche. Like, oh yeah, you know, but like, yes, everybody was having sex in the bathroom. Yes, there was, I mean, and not as the blatant plug for the Cat House Hollywood podcast, but some of the craziest stories that you've ever heard in rock and roll happened at the Cat House. So you can listen to the journalists talk about it on the internet, or you can hear the people that were there talk about it on that podcast. And it was great. And it'll never be duplicated. That time will never be duplicated because everything is safer. The Bay Area thrash scene will never be the way it was. The New York City hardcore scene will never be exactly like it was. But, you know, we all lived through our scenes and very lucky. I wish I could remember all the fun I had. I know I've been told all the time I had so much fun, but I just don't remember a lot of it.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it will never be the same. Like you said on your podcast, like things back then, housing was cheaper, gas was cheaper, buying a car was a lot cheaper, going to shows was cheaper. I mean, I'm glad we lived it in our own scene, but it'll never happen again.
It'll never happen again. And now, you know, the problem, I mean, just the way we listen to music, you know, it's like I recently went to a record store and bought an album and bought a couple albums, and I put the album in my car. Obviously, I could have said, "Hey Siri, play, you know, Mob Rule or whatever," and it would be on there. But I had the vinyl there, and I said, "No, I'm not going to listen to it until I get home." And then I get home and I put it on there, and of course, I sit on the floor and just stare at the album cover and listen to the album. Nobody does that anymore. No, I mean, some people are starting to get vinyl, but now everybody wants everything so quick, so force fed. And I don't give a rat's ass if you're an influencer. I could give a shit how many views you have, you know, sell some records, go out and play, do something. Everybody wants everything instantaneously and in short, digestible bites. And they want it right now when they want. When I told somebody like, "Hey, I want to do this show and it's going to be on at this time. And if you don't watch it at this time, you're going to miss out." I want people to get in the habit of watching stuff like they used to. Saturday nights, they would watch the ball. And it's like, well, if you do it, no, because people have stuff going on. I'm like, and I'm sure I think like a dinosaur, but that's just the way I think. You know, I liked a lot of the way it was then.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's just time. I mean, there's a few of us that do that. Like Will is probably the only one in our band that still goes to record stores. I mean, I stream, you know, I take advantage of the technology, but it's kind of hard to tell the, you know, whatever couple gen earlier than us. Yeah, you got to listen to it like this because it's, you know, they were born into the internet world.
I'm the first one to say my vinyl sounds like shit. It doesn't sound as good as digital, but it's just like, look, are you going to go grab Oreo, or are you going to sit there and make yourself a really killer cookie and slow down and enjoy that cookie, or grab an Oreo? Yeah, both of them are really good, but they're both different. Crazy analogies about everything. But for me, listening to vinyl is that same music that I can hear at any time, but it's like a treat. I listen to more songs off my phone than I do vinyl. But I do have a room in my house that we call the Licorice Lounge. That is where you sit down and you listen to vinyl, you know?
Gotcha.
Have you ever considered putting out a Cat House compilation album of all the bands that played there and the whole
the
whole theme?
I've considered a lot of things. I just don't. Here's my problem. Is everything that I've ever done, I've pretty much done by myself. The podcast is written, edited, posted, everything by myself. You know, my apparel company, I finally hired somebody to help me with that. And I want to do a compilation. I mean, if I did it, I'd probably here's the biggest problem. Like, I want to do a Cat House tour. And then, you know, in a band like, if I did a Cat House tour, I'd like to take Faster Pussycat and LA Guns out on the road and do a club tour and put in dancing girls and videos and make it seem like you're walking into this decadent little place and make it really fun. That was my idea. These bands want so much money. And then one band says, well, we draw 400. Yeah, but we draw 500. I'm like, who fucking gives a fuck? When you're drawing 50,000, then I care. Okay. I don't care. And it seems like the problem with the bands, especially the bands that are my age, they don't want to do it for the fun aspect, with the exception of maybe Junkyard, which is just a great rock band like Junkyard. But I need the other bands to get, 500 people in there. And I think that the bands, because everybody's a little bit older, they want to make that cash. But I would look at a compilation. I mean, it makes sense. I've even mentioned it to Brian Slagle before, and Brian's like, yeah, all right, let's do it. Like, it's just, I don't have an agent, manager, anybody. It's just, I got to do it. And I have so many other things that I'm working that I've got, like, if I put half of all the ideas that I have to fruition, I'd be quite successful. But it's just like I'm all scattered. Yes, I'm sorry. The short answer is yes. I would love to do a compilation.
I'd buy it. I mean, I think it'd be really successful. It'd be great.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. But you might not be able to include Guns N' Roses, which I think is so important. But and I'd want bands that people heard of, but maybe didn't. Put bands like Circus of Power in, which might maybe, or Warrior Soul, or bands like that all played the Cat House that I think were so. Warrior Soul is a band that I think probably should have made it bigger. I don't know if you guys listen to them at all. I thought they were.
Yeah,
really
I remember them. Yeah,
I thought they were really good. Yeah,
I'm gonna trickle back to the Ball real quick. Someone in the chat, Jim Parsons, Jim from the Ball in Europe. He says hello, and he says, "Are you still in touch with Nancy?"
I believe he's talking about, and hello, Jim. And I believe that he's talking about Nancy McDonald, my producer of Headbangers Ball. And I am not in touch with her, but I think I need to be very soon because she's a great person. And I'd really like to do another Cat House episode about the Headbangers Ball and bring on all the producers just to say, like, how hard I was to deal with and talk about the stories, from their point of view behind the scenes of stuff that happened with Headbangers Ball, because I had the easy job. They just said, okay, you're going to go to England with Queensryche. Oh, okay. You're going to go skydiving with Dave Mustaine. I'm like, okay, where do I go next? They had all the logistical problems. And I don't really talk to her, but she's great, and I should.
Dude, if hypothetically, with the internet and all that, if you had a chance to do Headbangers Ball again, what would you do different? What did you learn from your time then that you would change if you had a chance to do the show again?
Well, as the three of us all know, I am going to be doing a show called The Ball that I believe will be out hopefully in February. That's going to be playing metal videos. No, I'll say heavy music videos. Some old, some new. That's going to happen. Now, what I would do is I'd be me today, not the me of the way I was then. I was really concerned and took a lot of stuff personally. And I think now, like the three of us, what we're doing is we're having conversations. I hate interviews. I was never a journalist. We're having conversations. It would try to be more conversations, but I had such a small amount of time. And I think, as much as sometimes I criticize the Headbangers Ball, I think the show was really good. We had a lot of fun, I never tried to be like, I'm the host. Tell me about your producer. And your show was engineered. It's like, yeah, I'm the host. And if this guy's going to throw cupcakes at me, so be it. If it's fun for you, then I don't care. I just want to have a fun show. I think it'd be more fun. I don't know if that's correct thing. Yes, better than funner. I think it would just be the version of myself that I am now. And I'd like to be in charge of the music that gets played. And I'd also like to be in the position that if anybody was disrespectful, I could say, fuck you. Like sometimes there were bands, like I said something a little off cuff one time to Scott Weiland and about Scott Weiland. And I got a lot of shit and I had to call them and apologize, and I was like, what did I do? I didn't do anything, so I'd like to have that freedom, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how much I would change. I'd like for me to do a show called The Ball. I think it's very important not to play the videos that you're seeing on every mainstream rock station, I don't think that you need to see, and this is again, when I say this isn't like I'm slamming certain bands that are very popular right now, but if they're played on regular rock radio, that song should not be played on The Ball. I want The Ball to be underground scene for rock and roll with whatever type of genre of heavy music it is. One of the very cool things is, and I appreciate them for doing this, is whenever there was any type of metal show, I was not the one that was called up. It was either Eddie or Jose. And I'm not saying anything bad about either of those guys, but I was like, I'm the guy that hosted Headbangers Ball. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit jealous. I was like, why don't I ever get asked to do these things, you know? And it's because I'm not, you know, I don't have the agents or managers, journalists, and both of them are really good at what they do. I'm not putting down either of them. I think they're both great. But then Code Orange reaches out and they're like, hey, would you do this for us? You know, I'm like, wow, like Code Orange is a band that when I was on Headbangers Ball, they weren't even born, you know? And so they reached out for me to do this. And then a couple other bands, I don't remember which other bands were, but a couple of newer heavy bands have asked me to do something, which I find very flattering, you know? And when I talked to some young fans and I was like, how do you guys know who I am? And they're like, oh, well, we watched, you know, what you used to do on YouTube. And I think even though we have so many ridiculous genres now, I think people are willing sometimes to go outside of their box, to say, okay, I like this band, even though this is a little bit more industrial, but I also like this band because this is just like, you know, heavy driven rock and roll. And I like being able to find people that are in their 50s and have them listen to Power Trip and say, okay, this isn't an old thrash band. This is new, you know, stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. I mean, after the ball, what did you do?
While I was doing the ball, I was hosting Love Line, and I went from one destructive relationship to another, became a talk radio host, had an incredible bout of depression, beat up another DJ, went to jail, went bankrupt, lost everything, was completely broke, ended up becoming a car salesman. And then slowly started crawling my way back up and started working in motorsports. And then I was doing radio. And you know, I'm happy to say that at this stage of my career, I'm doing better now than I ever did, you know, because I went all the way back down to zero. And I was a bitter, angry man, you know, for a long time. And, you know, I shot myself in the foot. I had a very high paying job. And, you know, because I was having problems with depression, I let everything pile up and, you know, being in bad relationships, feeling that you're a loser. And then somebody says something about you, you explode and get physical with them and lose everything. And I lost everything. I mean, some people talk about, you know, being bankrupt, but still having like a nice car. It's like my freaking power got turned off in my apartment. Okay. It's like, it was bad. And, so yeah, I had some strange years, and now, you know, I've got so many things going on, and I couldn't be happier. Like I'm very proud that it took me this long to actually be okay with who I am, without getting like really deep into it or anything like that. And no, I'm not going to say like, well, I found the Lord and that's what happened. You know, I'm not going to say that. It's just like, you know, I went through a lot of changes and found out what was important, and to the point. And I still have, you know, my little self-destructive blues sometimes, but you know, it sucks when I'm a car dealership selling Volkswagens in Huntington Beach, and I'm here in a shirt and a tie, and I have that job because I'm hoping I can pay my rent. And some guy says, dude, are you the guy in Headbangers Ball? And I'm like, yeah, now let me show you this Jetta. You know, I mean, dig deep when that stuff happens. And there were people, you know, there were radio jocks there was this guy named Tom Likas who was like a shock jock, just a dork. And he went on the radio talking about what a loser I was because I had a regular job. And I'm like, guess what, motherfucker? Most people got regular jobs, you know? We're in a society, and I hate to go on a tangent, but we're in a society that if we see somebody in a band that we really liked that now has a regular job, we call them a has-been, which is a negative comment, and call them a loser for having a regular job, which we have never achieved the fame that they had. And now they're on the same level as us, but they're a loser, even though they're the same level as us. And us meaning 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore, but you know, I've always been, I think I'm a guy that always looks at everybody the same way. I really don't care if you sold 1 million records or if you're the guy that's, you know, laying pipe. I don't know if pipe is what they lay. I think that means something else, but
it sure does.
But something like that. I mean, you know, now I live in North Carolina and I don't have any friends in my city that are rock stars. They've all got, one of my best friends is honestly a trash collector, and, most of the people that I hang out with ride motorcycles. So
and
I don't even think
speaking of motorcycles, you have your own thing called Ride for Riki, right? Is that it?
Well, it's not Ride for Riki. That would be kind of bad. Like Ride for Me. It's called Riki's Ride. I guess that's not much different, is it?
Yeah,
And,
come on, man.
Okay, you're right. The truth is, this is something I'm very proud of. More proud of than when we lost Neil Peart. When we lost Neil Peart, I gained the title of I've ridden more miles on a motorcycle than anybody else in rock and roll. That doesn't really buy me a cup of coffee or anything, but I've always ridden motorcycles far. I love it. And then one year I decided, okay, I'm going to raise some money and post my little things on the internet. Again, there wasn't a manager, there wasn't a publicist, there wasn't anybody that was working for me. I just did it myself. And then Riki's rides started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, one year I'm raising $20,000 for the Claire Wineland Foundation for kids with cystic fibrosis. And when I raise $20,000, I give $20,000. I don't take money to pay for gas or hotels or anything. I raise and give all of the money to the charity. There is no money that goes to help publicize. It's like 800% goes straight to the foundation. I raised $20,000. I'm like, damn, I got something going here. So then I said, okay, next year I'm going to ride for Stop Soldier Suicide. And I rode in every single state in America. And I raised 32, just me, no publicist, no big party to promote it. And I raised $32,000. And then last year, even with COVID, I rode about 11,000 miles and raised $22,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. So just me, and for a lot of time, my girlfriend was on the back. We don't ride with groups. We find out where we're going along the way. I've ridden coast to coast 14 times in 4 countries, and I have given over $100,000 to charity. And the reason I'm saying is because I don't get any publicity for doing that. I don't care. People, well, yeah, I kind of would like a little publicity for it, but it's something I'm very, very proud of. And I've ridden everywhere because I truly love riding motorcycles. I love getting on a bike and riding. And I've ridden, one summer I said, I'm going to ride in 48 states because I couldn't do Alaska and Hawaii. But one day I will ride to Alaska. And I just love riding motorcycles everywhere. And, I post where I am on social media. So I'll pull into a place and there'll be, people waiting at the gas station for me. It was kind of a drag this year with COVID because everything was different. But this year I actually camped for the first time. And I love it. I love riding motorcycles so much.
What kind of bike do you ride?
I ride an Indian now. I've ridden an Indian now for about 4 years. Before that, it was all Harleys, but then I started riding Indians. And I don't even know how many miles I've ridden in my career, but I still pretty much can't really change the oil. I tried to change my battery and I fried the whole wiring system. So I don't know how to work on motorcycles, but thank God a lot of my friends do. So, but I just know how to ride and I love riding. I mean, I'll ride anywhere. I'll ride from New York to LA anytime just because I love it. And I'm hoping to ride with Zetro this year too, if I make up to the Bay Area.
Yeah, he's a big bike enthusiast for sure, man. Totally. He has a new bike. He's getting a new bike worked on right now. It looks really fucking killer. I was at his place a couple days ago. Total horror movie theme with like Dracula all over it and the Bride of Frankenstein. Pretty cool.
Oh, on the bike.
Yeah. Awesome.
Interesting. Yeah, well, it's Zet. Yeah, Zet's a bike dude. He's always been a bike dude. You know what? When you mentioned COVID, this whole year's been crazy. And, with the industry shutting down, it's kind of like, I talked to a few people. It's making you change the way you do things in music. There's no live shows. It's kind of like, okay, figure out what we got to do. It's pretty hard. What are your thoughts on that, Riki?
Well, if you sit on your ass, you're going to get swallowed up. you got to think out of the box, whether it's, doing the Death Angel streaming show, or whether it's getting into a studio and doing live streaming. It's, you've got to do something. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared. I want to see shows again. I want to go out and, before the things that I like it, somebody said, do you ever hang out in the crowd? I'm like, dude, I always hang out in the crowd. And I like walking into a club, seeing smoke, seeing the lights going through the smoke and the band over there, and walking by the t-shirts and saying, damn, that's an expensive $50 t-shirt. And just walking in the sweat. And I love that. And I miss, and there's certain aspects that I don't know if they are going to come back. If you're in a band, you've got to think outside of the box. You've got to work hard. I mean, now things that we always thought were like goofy, like Cameo or putting things on eBay, which is like, oh my God, it's like, look, you guys got to do that. And if anything, it's also become a big equalizer, because rock stars are more on and I'm not talking about the guys that have millions in the bank. I'm talking about, the people that we know that when they're touring, they're making some good money. But if they're not touring right now, pretty soon it's going to be like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't know. The thing is, your drummer got COVID bad. I got COVID pretty bad. I was not on a ventilator, but it screwed me up. It still screwed me up. People aren't taking it seriously, but I don't know. I mean, if everybody wore a mask, is that going to change things? I don't know. The only thing I know for sure is we don't know. No, nobody really knows. I miss concerts. I know Flaming Lips did this thing where everybody went in these big bubbles. I don't know about that, but I hope we're going to have shows. I mean, I can say whatever I want right now, but the truth is nobody knows. Dr. Fauci doesn't know. It's like, let's see what happens. When I was at Bike Week last year, I made some stupid comment like, look, you guys can sit on your toilet paper thrones. I'm going to go ride my motorcycle. I'm going to shows. I was like, well, man, I really look like an idiot. I was wrong. I have no problem admitting that I was wrong. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to force us to look outside the box. That's why, I think it's a good time for me to do this show called The Ball. It's a good time for you to do these streaming shows where we can see you guys talking to other people. If anything, it puts more of a human side on all the bands. And now the bands we see that like you guys are human instead of just seeing you guys on stage all the time. And, I don't post about my political beliefs. I have very strong political beliefs, but I'm kind of the point that I'm like, dude, I'm over it. Okay. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear my favorite band constantly talking about politics, because nobody's mind is, you're not going to side you're on. If you're going to talk about this and this and this and this and this, nobody's going to read your post and say, oh, I never looked at it that way. Good point. Everybody is here or there, and they're not going to change no matter who says what. So I can't wait till us rock and roll people start focusing on the important stuff like rock and roll and horror films and goofy stuff like that. That to me is what I want to hear about. That's not because I'm ignorant and I don't care about that stuff, politics. It's just like, I want to be on social media to escape it. I want to go to shows. And the thing is, here's one thing. When we do go back to shows, and one day we will, holy crap, everybody's going to go out on the road on the same time. Mm-hmm. So sudden, like I always had before COVID, I said, I've never been to Hellfest. I really want to go to Hellfest. My girlfriend speaks French. How fun is what is your guys' favorite festival?
One of them. Hellfest is definitely has a little bit of something for everybody, like stoner metal, black metal, death metal, rock and roll. The big names, like even like ZZ Top and stuff like that. So that's definitely one of the best ones, man. They treat you well, and you just, whatever you're looking for, it's there.
Yeah. Say the Hellfest and Grass Pop are pretty similar. They're just in different countries.
That's what I want to do. I've been thinking about wanting to go to those. And I remember I went to Monsters of Rock Donington, and I remember people throwing big old like milk containers filled with pee, throwing them up in the air. And I'm like, and now, like, if somebody sweats on you, you're going to be freaked out. And like, I don't like touching people's sweat before COVID.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, I think that we're starving, that we want to go to shows, but we don't want to be stupid. And I don't know. And that's the thing is like, we don't know what's going to happen. We really, really don't know. I'm glad that I went to the very last Slayer show. I'm glad that I got to see Maiden twice, right before COVID, but who knows? And when everybody goes out, there's going to be either you do the biggest festival, the biggest heavy music festival period and put everybody there. Or if you have everybody, it's like, okay, I'm going to go see this band today. And then tomorrow I'm going to see this. And, I know everybody's going to be tempted to have expensive ticket prices, but if everybody's going to go out on the road at the same time, I think that when it's going to be interesting because I know you guys want to go out on the road as soon as everybody's back.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't? Everybody wants to go back out on the road, with the exception.
That is a good point. There's going to be like an oversaturation of bands touring at the same time, and it's going to go one way or the other. So yeah, it's a very uncertain future for sure.
But it's risky. Like people don't want to, buy tickets now to know that they're not going to get it back. I mean, I could give a rat's ass about Coachella, but I just heard Coachella was canceled. And, I don't buy tickets often, but I laid down some money for the Rolling Stones because I really thought it'd be cool if I went to see the Rolling Stones. And I got money back on that one recently, so it's just like, I don't know. I just know I want to go to shows, but I think that, maybe I'll do a Cat House 35th anniversary streaming thing. And, sometimes that works, but it's not the same, Going to a concert is a social event. You see your friends, you see your tribe, you see this, you go, I'm one that likes to go to shows early and I like to stand in the crowd and get exposed to a new band. I remember seeing Slayer and I'd never seen Children of Bodom. And I went there and I was standing in the crowd by myself, watching them going, these guys are great. And all my friends are going, well, I'm going backstage. And I just stood there and watched them by myself. I love seeing a band and getting blown away to the point of wanting to go buy their records. I love the whole experience.
So
if all of a sudden it looks like I'm doing something weird like this, it's because I'm petting that guy.
Oh, all right. Good to know.
I'm not saying I wasn't touching myself, but I'm just saying at this moment, I'm petting myself.
What newer bands you listen to nowadays? It could be rock, metal. It could be anything.
I don't know anything about this band, Cane Hill, but I just heard them and I liked them. It's so funny. Like sometimes I'll say like, yeah, I like this new band that's been around for like 15 years. And I know they're not new, but I really like that band Turnstile. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of bands that I like that I can't think. I heard this one song that I thought was interesting by this band that I don't know anything about called Despised Icons.
Oh yeah.
I heard one song by them and I was like, okay, this is an interesting song. I like Power Trip. I really do. I talk about Code Orange a lot, even though they're not new, but I think that they're unique. That's why I like them. And they're really nice and they're all hustlers. And I like that.
Yeah, I had Reba Myers on my stream like a few weeks ago.
So great.
Yeah, they are a good band.
They're great. And they do everything themselves. They work their butts off. For new bands, I don't know. What do you guys like that's new?
I listen to old stuff, man. So you're asking the wrong guy.
When it comes to newer bands, I'm not out searching for it. It's usually like we discover them if we are on tour with them. Like, oh, we're going on tour and there's this band that's jumping on the tour, or someone is happened to play it on their shuffle or something like that. But I'm not one searching actually. Or someone does a social post and goes, I've been listening to this band. You should check it out. Then I'll consider it.
It's just funny, like, and I think I mentioned this message on social media that it was yesterday. I heard the song Truce, which I just think that's such a bitchin' song, and that's like new Death Angel to me, even though it's been out what, like 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's certain songs which to me, that's like new Death Angel, you know? Like there's certain bands you'll hear that you like. And here's the thing that's important. If you've never heard a band ever, they're new. And it could be if you've never heard, it doesn't matter if people never heard Diamond Head. You know, if you've never heard it and you like get turned on to them and start listening to all their stuff, they're new, you know? So I love getting turned on to stuff, and I really like it when I get excited and start talking about a band. And then, you know, my thing is, okay, let me just make sure I really like this band. I'm going to tell everybody I like them. Let me go see if they've ever said anything mean about me, you know? So, but yeah, I can't think of anything right off the hand that I like. I guess Municipal Waste isn't that new, but I kind of like them. And I like a lot of old stuff. I mean, I listen to a lot of old stuff. I still listen to my old LA Orange County punk rock bands. I like some new wave. I like new wave.
New wave is bad. Will's a fan of new wave.
I love new wave, man. Gary Newman has a new album coming out. I can't wait to pick it up. So yeah, I love that stuff.
That's a genre that nobody ever says they like. Like people say, like, yeah, I like the old, you know, goth stuff, or I like the old punk rock. There's like, man, I freaking love new wave. Nobody says that.
I listen to it all the time. Ultravox and all that stuff, man. It's killer.
It's good. Ultravox, Massage, all those bands. That's it's like stuff. Even the first Duran Duran album was so good. You know?
Totally, man. Totally. It had a little darker edge to it. It was really good. A new album by an old band that I'm really into right now is Sarah Thungal's new album. Remember Sarah Thungal?
I honestly, funniest thing. I even told a friend of mine that I heard a song of his not that long ago, and I said, I was like, oh, that's not what I expected him to sound like. You know, like for some reason I'll hear songs that or read a band name that I think is, oh, that's like Viking music. Like I'll think if I don't know about it, if I don't know the band, I'm like, oh, it's Viking music. Like I remember the first time I saw, I'm pretty sure it was a Monomarth. Who was the band that came? Was it Monomarth? Or it wasn't Behemoth. Some band came out on a Viking ship. Was it a Monomarth?
Monomarth, yeah.
Wow, I went to see them not knowing, and when they came out on the Viking ship, I was like, this fucking rules.
yeah.
Like some stuff that's so cool that in reality it's kind of stupid, but kind of really cool. It's like, to me, it's like wrestling. I love wrestling. If I analyze wrestling, it's stupid. But if I watch wrestling because I like wrestling, I get into it and I have fun. And that's the way metal should be. You know, I don't need to listen to it to broaden my senses. I want to have fun, whether it's somebody that's a real cerebral band, or I like Every Time I Die. Whether it's a band like that, or whether it's just like I used the example of Municipal Waste. Their songs are dumb, but they're great, you know, and that's
right.
Wow. You have merch for sale? Like, do you sell the Headbangers Ball shirts and the Cat House shirts?
I sure do. Thank you for asking. If people go to cathousehollywood.com, and it's really cool because, like, you know, I see pictures of like Tom Morello or John Five wearing Cat House shirts. And of course, all the bands have worn Cat House shirts. But starting next month, I have Dickies jackets. I have Dickies shorts. And I have a lot of cool t-shirts, to the point that I had one office and I opened up another one because it actually does pretty good. I just got to figure out my website, and I want Cat House Hollywood to be an apparel line, to be a line of clothes that won't be in stores. That'll be, you know, like there's certain companies that come out with good merch all the time, you know, and I think if mine's is like a clothing line called Cat House Hollywood, it's got a great backstory, or maybe you'll just buy it because it looks cool. Who knows?
What's the name of your clothing company?
Cat House Hollywood, and you can find it on cathousehollywood.com.
All right.
And I'm sure that we can figure out some trades. If you send me some stuff, I'll send you stuff.
Oh yeah, I got stuff at the house. I'll send you some stuff, bro.
Yeah, I like all the old looking stuff with the old logos and stuff like that. Even though your logo has pretty much stayed the same for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Ever since the first album, yeah.
Yeah.
I like
the only time it differed was on the third album, Act 3. That's when it just changed a little bit. All the other albums are the same, which I like.
Zetro just sent me an Exodus scarf. Who would ever think they make like scarves? But it's so rad. You know, it's got pentagrams on it and stuff like that.
It's awesome. Riki, we're coming to an end here. And last week, with what I've been doing is I have this Dirty Dozen, 12 questions. I asked Brian and Will last week, but now I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to do 12 questions, and I'm going to do a bonus one at the end.
Just one thing. My memory is always bad, and COVID actually screwed up my memory. Isn't that weird?
Okay. All right. Well, let's do the best that we can. But you're alive. You're alive.
Question one yet.
All right. Here we go. Mild or spicy?
Spicy.
Have you ever gone too far with spicy?
Well, I will tell you that there is a bottle of Carolina Reaper in my closet that we've had this one. They rate spicy on Scovilles, and we've got one that's 250,000 Scovilles. That's pretty freaking. No, it's 500,000 Scovilles, and it's really hot. And the one I have that I haven't opened is 2 million. So eventually, I will open it and probably have it on my Instagram because I'll probably die. But yes, I love. Freaking hot. Yeah.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Well, even though I have the cat house and everything else, right now it's dogs because I have 2 dogs and I'm petting my dog right. Remember, that's where my hands are. They're petting my dog.
I'm a dog guy too, but I love cats though.
I love cats. I have 2 dogs and a parrot.
Whoa. Okay. A movie you can watch over and over.
I'll give you 2. Blazing Saddles and Jaws. Jaws is the greatest movie ever made.
I thought you were going to say Decline of the Western Civilization Part 2. No,
that's movies that I don't ever watch.
Oh. Okay. Riki, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Wow. Liars?
Oh, okay.
People that I was going to say influencers. I don't like when people make promises they can't keep. I like people that hate on something that they don't know anything about. I really don't like traffic. I don't like that. I don't know. I'm thinking, but mayonnaise. How's that?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of mayonnaise too. So.
Fuck.
What time does your alarm go off every morning?
I haven't had an. I can't even tell you the last time I had an alarm, but I woke up at 6:30 this morning, a.m. I haven't had an alarm. I don't think I've used an alarm in years.
That's good. What
that's extreme laziness.
It depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
But a song you love to sing when you're all alone.
Well, today a song you never heard of by Lucinda Williams. It would be something random, like weird, but it could be anything from the Adolescents, punk rock to ELO. I really like ELO, but I don't know. I've always been crazy by Waylon Jennings. How's that?
There you go. Your favorite vacation spot?
I probably haven't been there yet. I really like, my favorite place to ride is the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is by where I live. I really want to go on a vacation somewhere warm, so I don't know if I can even think of a place yet. Like I said, I rode a motorcycle in every state. My favorite vacation spot is on my motorcycle anywhere.
There you go. I can see that. The one thing about you that probably annoys others?
Everything.
You, huh? Just you.
The thing about me that annoys people is me. I don't know. I've become very. I don't know. I think I don't like to, like, okay, the one thing that I really hate, I hate when you're talking to somebody and then somebody always has to one up you. Like if you say, oh yeah, well the other day I went and, you know, I had an ice cream sundae. It's like, oh, that's funny because the other day I had a really big ice cream sundae. And I know it's terrible when I hang out with my friends and they'll tell them like stories about meeting this rock star. And then I don't want to one up them, but I've just had a really good life. So I can tell some great stories, but I know that's I don't like to one up. Sometimes people like to hear my stories and probably sometimes people don't. I don't know. The thing that really annoys my girlfriend is I'm very hard on myself.
Okay. Your favorite smell?
Fire.
Okay. Campfire. I can see that. About an instrument you wish you could play?
Guitar.
Yeah, I know
you got. That too.
Me too. Will's damn right on that one.
I had signature LTD. So listen to this. I have a guitar. I played it. I learned 3 chords and I'm trying to learn. It's so funny. Like when I'm trying to learn like certain things, I ask Slash or Mark Morton. Now I'm going to bug Ted or Ace Von Johnson or Gilby Clarke. But yesterday I plugged my guitar in and the little tip of the cable broke inside my amp. And everybody I asked it basically said, I've been touring my whole life. I've never had that happen. And the little teeny tip of the amp cable broke into my amp. So I don't know.
Oh, well, you know what? When Will picks up a bass, what's the first song you play, Will?
Bathroom Wall.
Every time he picks up the bass, that's the first thing he plays. It's awesome.
That's awesome. I'm gonna tell Tim he's gonna love that.
Yeah. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, how good of a dancer are you?
With people around me or alone?
People around you.
Well, when I'm by myself, I'm great. Except I would say that I'm a solid 6 or 7 swing dancing.
Okay.
Regular dancing, probably I just don't like it. Sober dancing's hard. I just don't like dancing. I'm just not good at it because I think I look stupid.
All right. What did you have for breakfast today?
Just a little bit of oatmeal.
A little bit of oatmeal.
Me too.
All right. Here's a bonus question that I'll ask. I've asked my bandmates this, and I have it on video. Priest or maiden?
Ooh, that sucks. I hate hypothetical questions. That's a pet peeve. Or questions like, why do you have to choose? I will tell you this. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have always said priest. Always. I would have said priest up and down. Always. I would even go as far to say is that I wasn't the biggest Maiden fan. Then I saw Maiden about 2 years ago, right, in Charlotte. Blew me away to the point of I then booked a flight and went to go see him right again in Vegas. I would say today, Maiden, but I mean, actually, you know what? I listened to both today. Today I heard Maiden and Priest. I don't have to choose. That's the beauty of it. But if I was going to go see a concert, I'd probably go see Maiden. If I was going to go, no, I don't know about that. I don't know. That's tough. That's a really, really tough. That's a tough one. That sucks. I don't know. Don't you have a question?
What's up? What'd you say?
Don't you have a question?
That's why I ask it. You know, I mean, it's a really tough one. You know, I mean, it's hard. But if I had to choose, I think Priest wins by a hair.
What about live?
Live, I think Maiden would take it live. I don't know. What do you think, Will?
I think for a body of work for their entire catalog, Priest by a mile. But I agree, seeing either band nowadays, I think Maiden puts on a more spectacular show. So,
but both are great. It's like, which do you like? This really great band called Judas Priest or this really great band called Iron Maiden? You know, if you said, you know, what do you like better? You know, Iron Maiden or Creed, it would have been a hell of a lot easier. You know,
you said Creed.
I'll take Judas Priest or Maiden any day.
Yeah. All right, Riki, it comes to an end. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on here. And just let me leave this. Yes.
Follow me on social media, everybody, because very soon, and you guys know more information than anybody else does, there will be a show that I'm going to host called The Ball, and it might be as soon as February.
Awesome. We can't wait for that, everyone. You heard that straight from the horse's mouth. And go to cathousehollywood.com. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Go get some Cat House merch and all some other stuff. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Riki. Thank you, Will. Thanks everyone else for tuning in, and we'll catch you soon. Riki, woo!
Guys, I got to go because my girlfriend's texting me because she's at work and I'm supposed to go get her.
All right, man. Thanks, Riki.
We'll keep in touch for sure.
Will do. All right,
Cool,
man.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Later.
Great stuff today, guys. As always, nice to see you. Have a good
All
weekend.
right. All right.
All right,
on,
guys.
Will.
All right, Ted. I'll see you on Tuesday.